Felipe, great to see you as always.
What's up, guys?
So you wrote an article for The Athletic saying and intimating that Mauricio Pochettino could be in charge for that first game against Canada on September 7th. What do you got for us? Any more updates to that article?
Thank God, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, going on what Charlie said, and even what Brian said, like it is a bit of a surprise that the deal's not done. But this week, from what I was told, this week is a big week in what could be perhaps getting to the finalization of this deal with Mauricio Pochettino. And that means, I think U.S. Soccer, what they are feeling right now is a bit of pressure to get the deal done. Remember, when Greg was rehired, a lot of time went by. I think the fans were getting impatient with the way that the interview process was going. And U.S. Soccer, I think, wants to show the world, but especially their fans, that they have a plan and they have a strategy and they have their man. And the one thing that I've been hearing, since Friday, I went to the U.S. Soccer Board of Directors meeting. I hung out in the hotel, and the vibes were positive. That's what I'm telling you. The vibes were positive. I thought that's why I was there. I wanted to get some body language to see if there were if there was a bit of anxiety with Pochettino. And it seems like the holdup is Chelsea, and it's not so much that they owe Mauricio Pochettino money. The one thing that what I was hearing on Friday, they always refer to Pochettino as they, because this is him and his staff. And they had a 2-year contract with a 3rd year as an option with Chelsea, and that's what they're trying to figure out. I was told it's like showing up to a dance with 3 people, and so yeah, the negotiation with Chelsea is positive. But to Brian's point, what I was told is that they don't want to agree to anything until every little detail is buttoned up. That was the word that they used, and so. This could be the week, though, and whether or not he coaches against Canada, it's going to depend on what happens this week.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how that all unfolds, of course. And so why do you think that there is something from Chelsea? What's the holdup? Is it just because these extra people came to the dance and they weren't on the RSVP list? Or how do we kind of unpack, or ultimately, how do we resolve this quickly?
I mean, I think one thing is because Pochettino and Chelsea have decided to separate from an agreement that was supposed to last 2 years. So he's 1 year into a 2-year deal, and now both parties are wanting out of the deal. Then there's the other part of it that Mauricio Pochettino has verbally agreed to coach another team, to coach the U.S. men's national team. And so I think that's part of the fine print when a contract ends prematurely. Okay, but you're taking another job. What are they going to pay you? And Pochettino, from what I understand, and this isn't news, you guys know this, like he could stay in club football and make a lot more money than what he's going to make as the head coach of the U.S. men's national team.
Wait, Felipe, do we have a number? Because I don't know what Emma Hayes is on. Was it a 2.5, 3 million?
I think it's about almost 3. I think it's 2 million. I think it was reported to 2 million.
So what's Pochettino? What are you hearing in terms of that? Not to say that.
I mean, Southgate was on £6 million, right? So
yeah,
and he was the highest paid international manager. So
right,
you would assume, one would assume, to get Pochettino, who would be the greatest, I guess, the most experienced coach the U.S. men's national team has ever had, right? Almost a pipe dream, that he would be in the range. And Klinsmann was reported to have $4 million contract.
Mm-hmm.
I would say between 5 and 7 would be my guess.
Well, again, I don't know the number, but what I know is, and this was reported by The Athletic a week ago by my colleagues, that one way to get closer to the number that Pochettino and his staff are going to feel comfortable with is talking to sponsors and donors. Now, what I was told on Friday is that that part of the equation, donors, sponsors, partners, commercial partners, again, this is what I was told, they're not involved in this stage of finalizing a deal. Now, that doesn't mean that down the road, they play a part. And from what I was told is that, donors, new commercial sponsors are really fired up about Pochettino. And this started with Emma Hayes. Emma Hayes getting hired, arguably the best women's national team coach in the world, then winning gold. That has spurred a lot of excitement in this world of, the commercial part of the game, where that's helping U.S. soccer get out of a hole that they were in about 18 months ago. And when they see that they've hired Emma Hayes, and then then the proof is immediately proven in the Olympics with a gold medal, then they see that the U.S. soccer has gone out and gotten a huge name in Mauricio Pochettino. I think that just drives a lot of interest from that financial place. And so I think Pochettino in the end, maybe he doesn't get the number that he could have gotten if he would have stayed in England or stayed in Europe and coached Champions League football. But he's going to be fine. Still, it's going to be a huge pay cut for him. And again, just quickly, I'll say the one thing that I think stood out from the conversations that I had, and we've all wondered, Charlie brought it up, and Jimmy, you were excited about it. Like I did want to know, is Pochettino, is he excited? Like, what's happening here? And I was told that he's extremely excited. And the fact that September now, that camp is such a big deal now for him and his staff, tells you how eager they are to get started, I think.
I can verify he is excited. He is excited.
I do want to jump in and say that Emma Hayes and more specifically the U.S. Women's National Team propping up the men's team once again with some success that we can ride the coattails on. Got plenty of time for the Women's National Team. Congratulations to them once again on winning the gold. Also, we want to say that Roberto Mancini is getting $27 million a year to coach Saudi Arabia right now. It's just a little bit more than Gareth Southgate. I don't know if Pochettino is going to be scraping those numbers. Brian, what do you got for Felipe? You've been professionally quiet here. I'm just being very polite and quiet here.
Well, he's also in talks with the Saudi Arabian Federation.
That's fair. That's fair.
No, it's the fun part of this is the speculation, and the speculation. Anytime you hear about a manager like Pochettino who's interested and excited to come, that's exciting to all of us. The concern for me is, again, the fact that it's taking so long on Chelsea side, but thinking about that, it's probably actually probably helping the U.S. in the sense that he's going to get that money in the buyout, so U.S. doesn't necessarily have to pay over the odds, which, to be honest with you, I'd be surprised if the U.S. Federation does that. So that structure, and Felipe, when you were talking to people, the structure side of things and the commitment that U.S. Soccer has put forth to have equal pay, has that had any influence or any concern from the board about, if we do end up paying Pochettino, a bigger number, will Emma Hayes then get that raise also?
I mean, that's a huge question. I think the Emma Hayes part of the equation is that with her, U.S. Soccer has set a new standard, and that has been applauded by obviously just pundits and the football world in general. But I think also, again, we go back to commercial partners. That was sort of the big part of the conversations that I had on Friday. Is that there is a sort of a renewed direction and level of support with U.S. Soccer, and I think that could help. I just make the salary portion of Mauricio Pochettino's eventual deal a bit more equitable. Now, is he going to be paid more than Emma Hayes? I don't know, and that'll be interesting. Emma Hayes I think plays a very important role here. Which is interesting. They were both at Chelsea. If you remember, Emma Hayes and Pochettino, they know each other well. The Athletic reported that she was, while she was coaching the women at the Olympics in Paris, she was checking in to make sure that Pochettino's the deal and everything, that the connections that were being made were on the right track. And so that tells you that she's trying to get this done too. I don't think she's sitting in a room and talking to her agent saying, hey, let's see what this number is, because if he gets more, I'm not happy. Like, I don't think that's the priority right now. I think that'll be further reported down the road. But for now, I think the optics are that, Pochettino and his staff, I think to Brian's point, they're probably now sitting at home wondering, when is this going to get done? Because I think, with this September window coming, if you throw out the salaries and the numbers that they're going to make, there's still something that's even more important, which is, this World Cup in 2 years. And no coach has any time to waste, especially anyone that comes in and coaches the U.S. So that's why I think the September camp, that was really nailed down to me on Friday. The September camp is very, very important for the U.S. men's national team. And I know it was reported that Mikey Veras was probably going to coach as an interim, and that could still potentially happen. I was told the details. Yeah, we don't know who's going to coach, but they want Pochettino and his staff to be there and to be heavily, heavily active and present.
Okay,
I
go
just
ahead, Jack.
this is one thing because we typically want to read some of the comments on the YouTube. It's live, whatever. So this one triggered me a little, but I'm allow Felipe to handle this one.
We need a trigger meter for Chuck.
What the question is from OM: What has Poch done to deserve this praise? Question mark. He's a serial failure as a coach. Please. You go in.
How you define success? I mean, if it's just based on trophies,
please handle this.
Yeah. Okay. So let's. I'll be devil's advocate first. To Jimmy's point. Does he have a trophy case that's just glittering? No. But something that I'm working on once this deal gets announced is why is he a good fit? Like, why Mauricio Pochettino? I don't think he's the guy. From what I heard on Friday. Again, we're going to have to get names down the road, but many of the top coaches in the world were interested in this job. We're interested in the U.S. men's national team job. In the end, Mauricio Pochettino ends up being the guy. And why is he the guy if he doesn't have international football and experience? This guy named Lionel Scaloni? Do you remember that guy? Like, did he have any experience? That has blown up this notion that you have to have tons of experience as an international manager to take on a national team. It also, I think, blows a lot of things. Yeah, and I think if you just go to results, that's only one part of professional football and professional sports. I know a lot of decisions are made on trophies, and I don't think Pochettino is the perfect candidate. He's got a lot to prove too, but is he the best person right now?
But to that point, Felipe, I like that he has a lot to prove too, right? I think that fits into what we're looking for this particular group of players and for U.S. soccer on the men's side.
But we were all clamoring for Jurgen Klopp, and he has no international experience, and he has nothing to prove. So that's
right.
It's interesting. It's interesting because Klopp would have been, that's the lottery, right? Everyone understood that was winning the Powerball. And to your point, Charlie, but he doesn't have a World Cup in his trophy case, but he's just like, he has produced, he has shown a level of leadership that is coveted at this level. So does Pochettino have that? Is he at the Klopp level? You can say no, but this could be the guy that fell out of nowhere because he was at Chelsea, and now he's going to have a big runway to prove that he can coach beyond the club football. Because as we know, international club football, two different stories.
And listen, the thing for me that jumps out, and with any coach, doesn't matter if you're an international coach or professional coach, does he make teams better? He or she make teams better? That is going to be the most important thing. And Pochettino has shown that he can make teams better, especially, a group that has been thrown together in Chelsea. By the end of the year, they looked like a totally different team the second half of the season. And that's the thing that jumps out, and you can say, this is why I'm excited about Pochettino coming and coaching the U.S. team.
Yeah, and here's another thing that was reported by my colleagues at The Athletic, towards the end of the Pochettino era with Chelsea. His training sessions are really hard, guys. They're tough. He looks like a really nice, approachable guy, right? Mauricio Pochettino. I think you have to go back to the culture he comes from in Argentina, coming up under Bielsa, playing as a teenager, debuting as a 17-year-old at Newell's Old Boys in the 90s when football was a bit of a bloodbath. And so all those things are going to come together. I think that's proven the sort of like the philosophy that he has. And, maybe it's not trophies that this U.S. men's national team needs in order to be inspired. I think it's experience. It's like, do you have heart? Is it grit? It's a bunch of things that I think the teams that Pochettino has coached have proven to have some of those elements.
I think, again, it's going to how you determine success. No matter who came in as a coach, were we going to go out and win the 2026 World Cup? Listen, if we're being realistic, probably not. So when you think about what success is for us, and I remember having a conversation with Jurgen Klinsmann about this. I've told this story before, and Sunil Gulati, the then president of U.S. Soccer, tried to tear my head off in the elevator afterwards. But it's like, are we going to demonstrate us actually getting better as a nation, despite maybe not winning games through that process? And in this example, or the example I had for Jurgen Klinsmann, was not getting out of the group stage of 2014 World Cup, but demonstrating that we're better and putting the rest of the teams on notice, like, holy shit, those guys, they're starting to figure it out. That makes me a little bit nervous about the U.S. in the future. And even though we got out of our group and we saw that, we still played a little bit to our stereotypes. We sat back, we tried to hit on the counter, and on set pieces or whatever. And I feel like Mauricio Pochettino, at least for me, when I define the progress and success of his time in charge, can he maximize the potential of this group? And that includes all the intangibles that you're talking about, heart, grit, all of that. And then can you match that with the talent that we have on display? Can we get the most out of a Gio Reyna, for example, to make sure he can be consistently good every time he steps on the field? Those are the things that I'm looking at. And I'm hopeful when you get that, then the results will take care of themselves. If you're taking care of all this and everybody's making good soccer decisions on both sides of the ball, the results are going to be fine, and we're going to have a nice run. And we're going to need a little luck along the way. We've seen that with all teams. Even Argentina needed it in the last World Cup. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox. There's no question there. Take it away.
Let me add one thing. Let me add one thing to all that, because there are two things about Pochettino that make him an interesting candidate. And I'll just be short with this one because it's been heavily reported already. He has brought up young players. That's been sort of the part of his coaching upbringing. Just most recently, Moises Caicedo, who at one point was the most expensive player in Premier League history, he told reporters of the summer that pressure that he felt really weighed on him. He struggled, honestly, to play under that pressure. And when he was asked who was the guy that helped you, it was like, it was Pochettino. It was him and his staff. Like, they got me, they put my head where it needed to be. And so, that I think that bodes well for the players that you mentioned, Jimmy, that play for the US right now. The other thing that we need to go back to, I think, is this game against Canada. I think Jesse Marsch he's not even on the show anymore, and he's still part of the show. Like the Jesse Marsch equation, the fact that this friendly is against Canada, and Jimmy, you saying like, the US has to show the world that they have a plan, that they have direction, and Canada has a direction. And I think this friendly, suddenly is pretty important for the US. Like, I don't think anyone wants to go
10 more drones.
No one wants to go into that game. No one wants to go into that game with coming out of the game saying, where is this program going? And that's why I think there's a bit more pressure this week, and there's a bit more eagerness on behalf of Pochettino and the staff to be there in Kansas City and show that, okay, we're here, we're involved.
Okay, well, we don't want to waste any more time.
We don't want to waste any time.
That's the thing.
So last question for you, Felipe. We appreciate your time. Is Pochettino going to have any involvement, based on what you've heard and what you've seen, with the roster selection for these upcoming games in this September window?
That I don't know to the detail. What I was told is that they meaning US Soccer, has been planning the September camp for a long time. That was how it was told to me, a long time. I think that just shows the importance of this September window. But when I'm told multiple times on Friday about Pochettino and his staff being present, Pochettino and his staff being heavily involved, heavily present, active, I think, perhaps, Jimmy, that goes beyond just game day, and he's probably looking at players already. Perhaps we see a surprise name, perhaps we don't. But I think when you talk about being active, being present, and having your fingerprints on the team, whether he's on the touchline or in a press box, I think that could include a selection of the squad. So we'll have to see.
Okay. I gotta say this comment, because this guy came with machetes at Jimmy. He says, not only Jimmy Cricket's Jimmy, Reyna's career is swirling down the toilet, and you think getting the most out of him is a priority? ? Why don't we prioritize getting the most out of Freddie Adu? Oh my word!
Oh goodness!
He came for Jimmy's soul on that.
My soul? What are we even talking? My soul? Yeah, and Freddie Adu was a mercurial talent back in the day. I mean, whatever. There's a bigger conversation to have there.